This is the power of perfect prioritization. The reason that I say perfect prioritization and not just normal prioritization is because you can relate. You have priorities, I have priorities, your neighbor has priorities, everyone has priorities. But I think that the majority of us have it twisted. We have the wrong idea about how to allocate our limited time and resources into the multiple things we want to be really good at. And we've been taught by everyone around us there's a correct way to do it. And here's my thing. I think that the advice you've been told isn't the best for you if you're anything like me. So if you're the type of person who basically, there's two types of people. There's people who are content with being above average in everything, and getting there quite quickly. And then there's people who want to be at the top 1% of everything and don't mind taking their time. This should come as no surprise that the way to get from 50th percentile to 75th percentile is very different to the way you get from 75th to 99th, right? There's a very big change, a very large systematic change that you need to do, and I'm gonna distill that for you in this video. So, to add some structure, here's how I'll run today's show. The first thing is why I think the way you've been told to prioritize is completely wrong and will not lead you to your optimal success. I'll then tell you what I think you should do instead. I'll then tell you why my advice is better if you're anyone like me and the thing I just talked about just before. And then, most importantly, I'll tell you my 4-step process to switching your twisted sense of priority and turning it around so you're geared towards success. So if it sounds interesting to you, I'm sure it will be, so come and watch the video. So, step 1. What's wrong with the normal way of prioritization? What the normal way of prioritization tells you to do is this. You have multiple things that you want to do, and you have 100% effort in your day, right? Assume all the effort you in your day, consider that 100% effort. You then split that 100% effort into 40% here, 30% here, 20% there, 10% there, right? You start to do things like that to then increase all of your bars simultaneously. So, for example, this first bar could be fitness, second bar could be academic or finance, third bar could be relationship, I don't know, there's multiple things people prioritize in their life, and even more so than that, there are different ways which you can allocate that priority or allocate your efforts towards each priority, right? The reason that I disagree with this notion of going 40, 30, 20, and 10 is because if you want to get to the top of a particular pursuit and you're putting 40% of your total effort into that pursuit, do you think you can beat that 1% of people who are putting a disproportionate amount of effort into that thing? Do you think if you're in a bodybuilding competition and you're applying 40% of your day's effort into bodybuilding, can you beat the person who's putting 80% of their effort into bodybuilding? Now you might say, well, the guy who's putting 80%, he's putting 5% into his finance, 5% into his taking care of his wife and kids, right? Right? I mean, you can say that, but at the end of the day, the guy putting 80% of effort into his bodybuilding is gonna destroy you at bodybuilding because you're putting 40%, right? So here's my thing. What I think is that if you want to get to the top of a particular pursuit, you can't do this healthy lifestyle balancing stuff. You have to pick one thing and go all out and go hard in that. And I've made a video before in my channel called The Power of or it's called what chapter of life are you in? What I mean by that, like TLDR, what I mean by that is figure out what your main thing in life right now is, make it at the title of your chapter of life right now, and put as much effort into that chapter. And unfortunately, you have to neglect the other sub priorities, right? I'll tell you a thing I did today. I mean, not today, it was about 2 days ago, which inspired this video. 2 days ago, I cancelled my gym membership. Going to the gym was a very important thing for me. I liked it. It made me feel very good because, having fucking muscles is like super cool, right? So obviously, it was hard to make that decision, but I did it because even though building a great physique is a priority, it's not the priority. What I need you to understand is you cannot get to the very upper echelons of a priority. It has to be the priority. When you have the priority, then you can't get beat by the people with the priority as well, because you're on the same level as them. Then you can compete. Why would you compete against the people who are going all out when you're going half out? It makes no sense to me how you even think you're competitive, right? How can you even do that? You're not like a God-given generation talent. You're the same as the other guy, but the other guy's putting more effort. Who's gonna win? It's not gonna be you, right? That's the most important thing, right? This is why I don't like the advice of have balance and increase them all, because you're kind of capped out there 75%. You can't get above that upper range, but what you can do is go all out in one thing, max that to 99, then come to your next one, then max that, then max that, then max that, right? How do you know when you've maxed something out? It's when on the graph of limiting returns, where this is your progress, so on this axis here is your results, and this axis here is your effort. It'll look like this, where at the beginning, the more effort you put, the more results come in. Towards the end, you're putting in so much effort, but the graph curves out, you're not getting much results. Like, once the graph begins to flatten out, then you can move to your next thing, because you've maxed out this pursuit, right? So really try to max out one pursuit, get to the top of that pursuit, and then you can move forward on the other pursuits. I'm not saying I've achieved some generation success. I'm just saying I think this is how you do it. From what I've thought, me as a modern day philosopher, what I've thought is if you want to get to the top, this is how you should do it. Now you can listen to me, you don't have to listen to me, but this is what I think is the way. So now I'm gonna tell you, okay, so I've got some notes here. So I've told you why I disagree with the typical method. I've told you who this advice works for people with very high ambitions who want to get to the top of one thing. I've already told you why it's better for the people who want to penetrate the top percentiles. Now, here is the crux of today's video. So far, I've told you, if you've got a bunch of priorities, pick the most important one in your life currently and allocate the resources here. But how do you even do that, right? Is there a point of me making this video of me saying, do this and do that without me telling you how? Of course not. So this is how. And this is my 4-step process to doing just that. It goes like this: identify, identity, remove, encourage. So step 1, identify. Identify which chapter of your life are you in. Identify what's your main priority, what's your main pursuit. Step 2, identity. Make it your identity. Make it so in your mind, when you hear your name, Danuga Marnage, you think, yes, Danuga Marnage is a guy who's really focused now on school, or the guy who's focused on work or fitness or something, right? Make it in your mind that you literally have this one thing, and you've got this obsessive sense of self regarding that one thing you want to get really good at, right? That should be your new identity for the next coming, I want to say couple months, but it should be a year minimum, right? For the next year, if you're taking this very seriously, for the next year, for the next 2 years even, this is my identity. I'm the guy that grinds out in this particular pursuit, and occasionally, often actually, neglects the other priorities, but in due time I'll then come back and get these ones. So it comes full circle and you get to do everything, but it takes time. But for now, I am the guy who's really focused on priority A, and I don't really care about B, C, and D. Make it your mental note. Make it so you literally tell yourself, I am this type of person. You cannot do steps 3 and 4 without reinforcing to yourself mentally, I am the person who is really focused on this. The reason is your brain and your perception of yourself is so powerful that it dictates a lot of the things you do. That's why I've got a whole video on how to fix your broken self-image. Because if your self-image is someone who's prioritizing work, you're gonna work harder than the version of you who thinks in his brain, I am that person who works a bit, then plays a bit, then goes to the gym a bit, and then does stuff, right? You need to have the mentality of someone who's obsessive on the goal, because that's how you become obsessive, right? So most important thing, you need to force it into your brain. You can even do brain reps where you just shout to your brain. And look, I'm not gonna go too far because I've already discussed in the previous video, or in the video, how to fix your broken self-image, how to actually do this. But just to use that video and plug it into here, make it your new identity. Make your new goal your new identity. Now here's step 3, arguably the hardest step. So step 2 is the most important step. Step 3 is the hardest step. Remove. These other things that you want to do and are productive and are your priorities, you have to remove them for the priority, right? You have to remove all the A priorities for the priority, right? Once you do that, then you can put more effort into this priority. How do you remove other priorities? If you have the mentality of someone who's really focused on one thing, then it's much easier for you to remove these things. If I'm really focused, I'm the guy who only, my thing in life right now is go to the gym, I build a good physique. That's my thing. I eat healthy, I eat clean, my life is healthy. Then what that means for you is that you're less likely to spend an extra hour doing another priority, because you're not that person anymore. You're the person who going to the gym is the most important thing. Or studying, right? If your main thing in life is studying, then you're less likely to skip that work session to do the gym session, because you know now it's better for you to do the work session, neglect the gym until the time is right, but to work on the work, your schoolwork, and your schoolwork in this example, right? So the step here is to remove everything else that's not your main priority. And it gets really easy to do that when you have the mentality of someone who's super focused on your main goal. Now, step 4 is encourage. So encourage the newfound time and resources to work onto your new thing. An example is, if I used to go to the gym in the morning, now I wake up in the morning, I remove the gym, so now I've got time and resources, energy resources. I then encourage my new behavior of studying in the morning because I want to study, right? That's the 4-step process. Now, how do you do it properly? You get a journal, right? You get a journal, or iPad. I journal on my iPad now, but I used to use this book. But you get your journal, you write down the 4 steps: identify, identity, remove, and encourage. You write these down, and then you write at least a paragraph explaining for the first one, identify what the most important thing is, identify why it's so important, identify what could happen if you don't, what could happen if you don't prioritize it. So really make yourself clear, why is the most important thing so important? Step 2, identity. Write in your book, I am someone who currently in my life, my main thing is doing work, right? Write lines. Write it 35 times, read it 135 times, force it into your brain, and when someone asks you, What's your main priority? You can, without even thinking, you just say, my main priority is studying hard, like a robot, right? Be a fucking robot. That's more productive than, oh yeah, I'm someone who goes to the gym sometimes and I go study sometimes and I talk to girls sometimes. Like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like, pick one thing and focus on that, right? And encourage. Right, this is probably like the most beneficial one to write down. Write down every single action step you can do to encourage a new behavior. I'm gonna wake up in the morning and spend my new time resources to study. After school, instead of going to the Radford gym, I'm gonna, okay, I shouldn't say the name of my school, but I'm gonna just come home and study. Instead of doing this or doing that, I'm gonna do priority A, right? Write down the things and write down what newfound things you're gonna do. Now, without thinking about the numbers, you're actually putting 85% of your effort into this thing, right? Into your priority A. Now, you're way more equipped to get to the top of priority A. So, no longer you're gonna be that 81st percentile, right? You're gonna be at that 99th percentile, at the very top, where no one can touch you. And that's what I wanna give to you. So if you found this video helpful, then obviously like and subscribe and do all that. But more importantly, like if you're at this moment of the video now, pause it now and find the journal, find the pen, no pens near me, but find that pen and begin to write down the 4-step process. Again, identify, identity, remove, and encourage. Write them down. Write a paragraph for each one with excruciating detail. Once you do that, you're gonna be way more likely to actually act out on that and see success. So for me, do it for me. Literally put the advice I've told you into practice and see success. Do it for yourself and do it for me. And if you found this video helpful, then I'm sure that all the other videos on my channel and the new videos coming up are gonna be helpful as well. So if you like that, then obviously like, subscribe, like, and do all that shit. And yeah, I'll be here, so come back when you need me next.